So let's get a sample of what the debate about what's going on in Gaza looks like. Here you're going to see Sean Hannity with Yusuf Minayar, the executive director of the Jerusalem Fund and Palestine Center in Washington.
In a press release, the pro-Muslim organization said in part, quote, the U.S. government must not remain silent about Israel's unjust and disproportionate use of force against the Palestinians in Gaza because American taxpayers provide Israel with billions of dollars of aid each year. We have a right to demand that those funds not be used to take the lives of innocent civilians. Now, interestingly enough, there was no mention of the terrorist group Hamas and their role in this conflict. After all, they started this conflict. So my question is, why is America's largest Muslim, so-called civil rights group showing sympathy to terrorists?
So you saw the setup right there. I love that he talks about pro-Muslim groups. That's the only group that it's like an insult to say you're pro.
Yeah. What does that mean?
I don't know what it means.
Oh, a pro-Jewish group. What does that mean? That would be crazy, right? But like pro-Muslim is used as derogatory. But the whole framing is insanity. So if you support Palestinians or are worried about civilian deaths in Gaza, sympathy for terrorists. Right. It says it in the big graphic. He says it in his script. And then you show sympathy for terrorists. Okay, now he's going to go on. He's going to bring on a guest here, as John's going to explain. But the whole use of the word terrorist is insanity. I'll get to that after we watch this.
Yusuf, let me ask you this. If I fire 1,600, 2,000 rockets into your neighborhood, I kidnap 3 children in your neighborhood, students, and I kill them, what do you think the proper proportionate response is?
Well, maybe you should stop the ongoing, for decades-long military occupation of Palestinian territory.
Okay, listen,
before you question.
We can take it back to the 1948 partition plan, and we can look at the 67 war, the 73 war, and the hostilities abroad to Israel. They did give land for peace 9 years ago. Now I'm asking you a question. If thousands of rockets are fired in your neighborhood, and kids in your neighborhood are kidnapped, what are you going to do?
Sean, if the United States... Sir, I'm going to try to answer your question if you stop badgering me. Thank you. If the United States was invaded by a foreign military and besieged and surrounded, and the food that was coming into the United States was counted by the calories so that people would be put on a diet, as the Israelis claim. Bombs were being dropped. Sir, let me finish. Let me finish.
You're justifying...
Let me finish, and then you can...
You are making a rationalization for rockets and kidnapping and murder, and you expect the Israel... You want to blame the victims in this case.
The victims?
Wow.
Oh, my God. Okay. What would you do?
I think that before the ground invasion, the death toll was literally at one point 500 to 1. Okay, now about 35 Israelis have died during the ground invasion, military predominantly. I think at least 2 civilians have been killed, but mainly military. But the Palestinians, who are 70 to 80%, according to the UN, civilians, they're not the victims. Israel's the victims for having killed them. Okay, now you could just flip Sean Hannity's argument easily the other way and say, well, you know, right now...
4 boys that were on the beach that were murdered.
So the 4 boys on the beach that are clearly killed, right? They're clearly not militants, clearly not Hamas. Every reporter that was there, Western reporters, all said the same thing. I mean, then we got over 800 deaths now. If you take, you know, the rough math there, that's over 600 civilians killed. So we could say to anybody who supports the right-wing government of Israel, well, you supported the murder of 600 civilians. Aren't you sympathizing with civilian murderers? I mean, you're killing these people, and so it's all your fault, and they're the victims. Now, of course, he doesn't do that. Fox News will never do that. No, it's always the Palestinians' fault, and if they ever do anything and say, hey, wait a minute, maybe 800 people dying because of Israel's invasion is not a good thing, they're like, you support terrorists. You see that? For how dare you even say any criticism of Israel, because if you do, you support terrorism.
I'm not even entirely sure why they had them on the show, because obviously he was trying to share his point. His tone didn't go up, like he wasn't angry or aggressive when he was answering. He was just trying to explain his point of view. In the middle of that, as he's giving some facts and some points, He comes in there, Hannity does, and he just totally interrupts him and doesn't allow him to finish his point. Why didn't he allow him to finish his point? Is it because he's giving your audience actual information that goes against your agenda and the propaganda you're trying to give them?
No, he's trying to incite the audience. He's trying to incite the guy he's interviewing to get him to yell back. That's all it is.
And then so he can turn around and say, see, angry Muslims.
Yeah.
That's how they are. They're full of rage. Now, the guy was trying to make a point, what would America do if we were occupied? Well, we know what Sean Hannity would do. If we're not even occupied, he had Cliven Bundy on his show all the time saying, grab your weapons against our government, okay? Imagine if another government was occupying us, how Sean Hannity would tell you to grab your weapons then.
But it doesn't even take occupying them. Like we've seen just in the past couple of years, news from just this week. If Obama tries to limit the sale of antique firearms containing small amounts of ivory, then they are trying to take away your guns, and he's tyrannical and you need to take him out. If there's a mandate where you have to buy health insurance, then the tree of liberty needs to be watered with blood. Like, it doesn't take anything near occupation. Just like forcing them to have health care in the same way that they have car insurance is enough that they would be firing rockets into the White House. Like, they understand the situation entirely. If you say Happy Holidays as opposed to Merry Christmas, they say that atheists are trying to kill the baby Jesus. Like, we understand how they would react.
Yeah. One more here. Let's watch this, and then we'll get even more angry.
I want to ask Youssef a question. Is Hamas a terrorist organization?
Do I get to actually speak now?
You get to answer the question. It's a simple yes or no question. Is
sir,
Hamas...
you invited me on here.
Is
sir,
Hamas...
You invited me on here as a
I'm
guest.
asking you a question. Is Hamas, whose charter calls for the destruction of Israel, is that a terrorist organization? That's a yes or no question.
Thank you for your question, and
now
I will provide an answer.
Finally.
It's very telling to me that, and it should be telling to your viewers as well, by the way, that the moment you have a Palestinian voice on your program who begins to explain the legitimate grievances of Palestinians on the ground, not just
organization.
Hamas.
Answer.
Sir, let me
question.
Finish. Am I a guest on your program, or
yeah, you're a guest, but you don't get to filibuster.
Answer.
Is Hamas a terrorist organization?
The United States certainly considers Hamas a terrorist organization.
Do you consider?
I
didn't ask what the United States think. I asked what you think. Okay. Can you hear?
Look, if you think that we are going to have any progress in this situation by simply yelling at me, that's not really going to be helpful.
Let me ask you nicely. Is Hamas a terrorist organization?
Sir, a question at this point.
Is Hamas a terrorist organization? Yes or no?
Let me ask you a question, sir.
No, you don't answer a question with a question. Is Hamas... What part of this can't you get through your thick head? Is Hamas a terrorist organization?
Excuse me?
Yes or no?
I already answered your question.
Yes or no?
I already answered your question.
You did not. You had your chance. You didn't say Hamas is a terrorist organization.
So if you don't give the answer that I want, you had your chance and you didn't give me what I wanted. So goodbye, okay? I'm not actually going to let you make your points here. I'm not going to bring you on to have a conversation with you. I'm here to yell at you, try to get you angry, and then say you're a sympathizer of terrorists. That's all. That's the whole point. And if you don't play along with that, goodbye, right? So now let's talk about how stupid the word terrorism is. Now everybody uses it, right? We started this. All of our enemies are terrorists. And so now remember, terrorism originally meant if you kill civilians, well then you're not fighting against the military, you're a terrorist. Now, by that definition, everybody in World War II was terrorists. The Germans were terrorists, the Japanese were terrorists, we were terrorists, the English were terrorists. We firebombed Dresden, we firebombed Tokyo, and let alone the nukes, right? We killed hundreds of thousands of civilians. Then, aren't we terrorists? Fox heads exploding right now. Okay, and then now it's become so ubiquitous that the Russians call the Ukrainians terrorists, the Ukrainians call the Russians terrorists, the Syrian Assad regime calls everyone they're fighting terrorists, some of them actually are, and then they call him a terrorist, and on it goes. So all of our enemies, and now everybody's enemy, is always a terrorist. Yeah. And so it's so easy to say when we kill civilians, we're so well-intentioned. Of course, we're the good guys when we kill them with our bombs. That's okay, that's not terrorism. It looks like a video game, so obviously we're not terrorists. If they fight back and they kill people that are civilians, well, then they're terrorists. The reality is killing civilians on both sides is reprehensible. And unfortunately, our side does it all too often as well. But that you will never see on Fox News. We're the good guys, and even if we kill their civilians at a 500-to-1 ratio, whether it's Israel, Iraq, whatever it might be, it doesn't matter. They're the bad guys, and if you say anything against us, you sympathize with terrorists. Figure it out.
Have you challenged him yet to allow you on his show?
Sean Hannity?
Yeah.
Look, one, I got banned from Fox News a long
You
time.
can't say they're
No,
just
I
scared
don't
to
know.
have you on. You can't do what they always do by saying, they can't get a certain Democratic guest on. Just be like, you're just a big pussy, Sean. Just have me on. Dude. What are you scared of? What are you scared of?
So then he'll do the usual badgering, but I'll badger right back at him, and then he'll cut my mic. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'll go. I don't give a shit, right? Good luck to you, Sean, right? That guy's a big blockhead. I mean, it's he has no logic. He has no rationality. It's super easy to dismiss him. So, but I'm not going to ask to be on his show. If he wants to have me on, great. I'll kick his ass all day long, right?
We should start a Twitter campaign. Get Cenk on Hannity.
No, but I don't need to be on his show. Our show is bigger than his show. He should come on this show.
That would be great if he came on the show.
Yeah. Oh, he would never. If he doesn't have the power to cut your mic, you think that pussy could ever dare to get in a real debate where he doesn't control the mics, where he would actually have to hear someone out? He has no logic. He'd run into a roadblock immediately. It'd be dead end. Oh, it does not compute. I do not know how to do this if I can't shut off your mic.
Imagine a situation where Bill Maher has you and Hannity on as his guest. Like, that would be an insane situation. I don't know whose side Maher would be on.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll take them both on. Bill Maher and Sean Hannity on the issue of Israel. Come and get it. You want to do it on this show? You want to do it on Bill Maher's show? I mean, you want to consider him neutral even though he's with the right-wing government of Israel? I'll take him I'll call that neutral. No problem, okay? I'll go on Maher's program and kick Sean Hannity's ass left and right. And if Bill wants to jump in, I'll kick his ass too.